This is the story of an ocean that one day becomes land, as it petrifies into a vast plateau of sand and stone. This soil is also where a river was successfully created over time. Using all its might, it gradually embedded itself deeper within the depths of the earth. Having witnessed the dawn of the world, this land is where the Colorado River and its many streams have slaved away over millions of years to shape an incredible maze of canyons. Wind, sand, and frost simply put the final touches in broadening its backdrop into a boundless landscape, where the Colorado waters' rumble resonates with the canyon's subsoil. It is from the heights of the Rocky Mountains that originates the Colorado, western United States' longest river. It travels over a distance of 2,300 kilometers before vanishing into the Gulf of California. Each year, Brian Dierker coordinates 2 to 3 scientific expeditions on the Colorado River in order to study this primeval land that brings us back to the Earth's early beginning. In this impressive rock nation, the Grand Canyon is the epitome of excessiveness, up to 30 kilometers wide, 400 kilometers long, and 2,000 meters deep. Brian Dierker truly feels at home in this colossal valley. He has traveled the course of this river hundreds of times, spending numerous weeks navigating within the massive stone partition walls where the rowdy Colorado flows.
I'd say the river is probably something like maybe a lion, or what, as Jim Morrison once called it, the snake is long. Something like that. But yeah, I don't have enough grasp of all the different languages to really put the right words for it. But it is definitely life. Life has to be involved there because it has a life all its own. When you think of the Colorado just as a river, the combination of how fast the landmass has risen around the river and its ability, because of these sedimentaries predominantly, these erosion rates have kept up with the landmass coming up. So I'd call it youthful as far as how busy it is, how it's working all the time to make the Grand Canyon. I'd call it youthful.
The Colorado's canyons remain unmarked on geographical maps until 1869. It is at that time that state geologist and ethnologist John Wesley Powell organized a 9-man expedition using 4 wooden boats that would take them along the course of this never-before-traveled river. These men took great risk in venturing within the depths of the Colorado to discover the rapids of this powerful river for the very first time. The first descent through the Colorado River will forever be remembered in American history as one of the greatest adventures of the country. Geologist Matt Kaplinski travels the Grand Canyon in an effort to decipher the land's history. He knows what his colleague John Wesley Powell might have experienced over a century ago as a man exploring the river and its sheer cliffs.
When you flash back to what it was like to be Powell, it's impressive how tough they were.
Yeah.
Just like it's even more impressive to me how tough the natives were that were making a living down here.
Oh yeah.
The way that you see these, you go up some of these routes that were their everyday sidewalks, and those people were up and down it every day, and you get up there and you think you're going to die, and you have this huge epic of a hike and you're clinging onto cliffs. To those guys, it's walking down a sidewalk, and it's what they had to do to, oh, I'm going to go walk 10 miles today. I got to go see my mom. Go up here and then go up to the rim and then drop over into the next drainage, and I'm going to bring her some mesquite beans. And,
Really
just super impressive.
Since the days of Powell, a large number of geologists, archaeologists, and paleontologists continue to study the land's history, which to this day hasn't been fully exposed. Here we know for a fact that the river behaves stubbornly. Simply by asserting its sheer strength, it has relentlessly sculpted thousand-year-old valleys, stopping short of the Earth's crust. Naturalists have not yet determined the complete geological saga that unfolded here.
The canyon exposes the rocks that expose the history of the continent, but it's also about the carving of the Grand Canyon and the notion that the canyon was carved by the river as, let's see, how do I do this? As the plateau rose up, the river is cutting down into it is not the way it appears to have worked, because the dating of the top of the plateau, the rim, it shows that the elevation of the plateau has been there since the Eocene, 40 million years ago, and the canyon's only 6 million years old. So the plateau was already up there when the canyon started carving.
For millions of years, the Colorado River has traversed a vast expanse of land on a global scale. It flows through a plateau bearing the same name that stretches over 400,000 square kilometers, an area slightly smaller than that of France. John Hafner has spent his life on the Colorado Plateau defining the region's topography.
It wasn't very promising this morning, but this is really nice.
This is spectacular. It's actually the cloudy days out here that really give you...
Although he spent years surveying this plateau, he now discovers it at bird's eye view in the company of Lou Bartel, an aerostat pilot. The ancient sea's waters have left its mark just about everywhere, as it once completely submerged this land. Before eventually receding, it abandoned striking layers of sediment.
This area is all, part of the Colorado Plateau. Of course, up here, geology-wise, this would have all been covered by a real shallow sea and compressed over time through salt layers and different sandstone. Pretty much the majority of this rock is Navajo sandstone with Kayenta caprock. A little bit of Moen Kopi I've seen out here. Does that sound pretty accurate
right.
to you?
Yes, it does.
It's interesting when you're looking down on birds.
Yes.
The stratified sediments accumulated over the course of several geological eras will end up broken by powerful shifts originating from within the Earth's core. As the seabeds rise from below to reach a lofty 1,600-meter height, two impressive mountain chains emerge into what is now currently known as the Colorado Plateau.
It's probably the most unique because it's so fragile and rugged. Everything that lives here is pretty hardy. I mean, all the plant life here, all the animal life. It's you've got to be a hardy animal to survive out here, and the people as well. It's kind of the same thing, and at the same time, it's also very sensitive.
The substantial forces that have jolted this plateau over a period of 400 million years have gradually fashioned a world made entirely of rocks and stone. In turn, the river bore straight through the plateau, burrowing little by little within the depths of the earth, its path over a distance of hundreds of kilometers. The Colorado Plateau is deemed the land of far and wide spaces, the Western American soil. American cinema has made an icon of this vast desert by filming its greatest westerns right here in Monument Valley. Colorado is first and foremost Indian land. This soil is exactly where the Navajo once clashed with the Spanish and later endured repeated assaults from the white-skinned pioneers in pursuit of the new frontier. Up until the 20th century, the American Army unrelentingly led fierce battles that brought these Indian nations to their knees, confining them to the strict boundaries of Indian reservations, where their descendants live to this day.
Bighorn sheep representations, and those are the earliest style of animals represented here at this site.
Archaeologist Sally Cole has developed a passion for petroglyphs, the drawings etched in stone that tell tales of a much distant past. On the facade of the sheer cliffs, Anasazi, the Navajo's ancestors, have left behind copious amounts of symbols and mysterious drawings, evidence of a truly ancient society.
So it's an important subject that's represented here very well during basket maker times, and we have a hint that it might have been represented earlier by these hunter-gatherer people who were living here. Oh, at least, like I said, these are probably at least 5,000 years old now. So the style began sometime around 3000 BC. You go to the left-hand side of the panel. Perfect. So then if you go all the way to the left where the panel pretty well stops, and just kind of hold it up against that. This is the earliest manifestation of what was being made and represented during around 400 BC to about 500 AD. And this place is really important because this is a crossing of the San Juan River. And the whole idea is people are moving from north to south of the San Juan and back again. As you came across this river 2,000 plus years ago, this is what would have greeted you. So you knew who was here, you knew what was important to them. And their identities, their identity markers.
In order to survive these deserts of sand and stone, men established themselves along the river. The region is an enormous maze filled with ravines, narrows, and canyons. There are thousands of them, and in the cliffs, entire villages have been erected. The Anasazi, architects of the cliffs, built elaborate structures stone by stone in each of the many natural sites that provided them with safety. They expanded their civilization by sprawling over the entire Colorado Plateau and using the rivers as their means of communication.
The Colorado Plateau has so many canyons, and as far as we know, these canyons, and certainly the river corridors, were occupied forever. This river is very, well, all the rivers, the Colorado River, you would have to come out. There would have been places you could not have walked through the Colorado River. But all those canyons connect up. So trading peoples and peoples with new ideas are going to follow these river corridors because it's the only really permanent water. We have a lot of side streams, but if you're, a lot of the permanent water, the waterways, these people control these waterways. If you want to think it, you know, they were leaving their mark and their information along the major waterways all over the Colorado Plateau.
In the eyes of the Navajo, this land is the work of divine beings, whose infinite powers of creation they continue to bow down to. Under Brian's watchful eye, the expedition carries on its journey on the river at the foot of the Grand Canyon. Brian is the grand knowledge bearer of the river, thus the man they call upon during filmmaking in the area.
What's kind of interesting is this is the beach that was featured in Into the Wild. This is the Dutch girl without her shirt on.
Not only has Brian Dierker acted as the main technical consultant for Sean Penn's movie Into the Wild, but he was also one of its lead actors.
They did a couple other scenes that they didn't use, but... Yeah, we're just gonna pan around here. Yep, that was the rock bar right there. Doesn't look like much. It was pretty ridiculous looking when we were there. Oh, that's for sure.
Since the 70s, he has furthered his river knowledge. He knows the 160 rapids along its course inside and out. He knows its tricks and its many hazards.
I started with, it was a 24-day one-boat road trip, you know, with freeze-dried food. And, there were 8 people on the trip. And we were on these galley oars, big 13-foot oars, like these side tubes with a frame in between them, and big 4 13-foot oars, and then a guy standing on the back with a sweep oar to steer. And it just infused responsibility to you. You needed to have the food thing down, you needed to have the navigation down, and you needed to have some people skills to interact and make the trip right. It teaches you so much, and it's good for young people to do this stuff. It teaches them not just boating skills, it teaches them a lot of different skills. So I think all of those things, you know, it's a basket full of stuff, you know.
Plus the freedom of it.
Well, that's the thing.
You're on your world is defined by your trip, and you're in charge of it.
You can be really loud down here in free. Nobody heard it.
Taking a trip down the Colorado is like stepping through the doorway of time. It takes you back 2 billion years to the Precambrian era, the planet's very first geological period. Over time, the river has crafted what is known as the oldest rock unit to ever grace this Earth, the Vishnu Schist, which is essentially a metamorphic rock derived from extremely old deposits of ash, mud, and sand. All geologists dream of touching this stone. It's as if they're able to feel the Earth in the first hours of its creation.
This is a part of the Precambrian Vishnu metamorphic complex, and this particular rock is a pretty rare one. It's a pegmatite with a mafic mineral assemblage in it. The minerals in here are, you don't usually see them in a pegmatite here, which is a pegmatite is an igneous, it's a dike that shoots through the host rock off of a magma chamber very quickly into the surrounding rocks, and the drop in pressure as it squirts into the rocks in the surrounding area causes these crystals to nucleate and grow very large, which is pretty cool. Look at that beauty, huh?
To travel down the river while engrossed in a realm of the distant past is a lifelong dream for many. Navigating the Colorado is Trey's livelihood. He spends 5 months out of the year transporting tourists on this river.
There's not too many places in the world you can be at one time and see all 3 types of rock right in front of you, and be able to come up and touch the Earth's history. I think is absolutely amazing, and to see this river that carved through it, and to see it still carving through it is, and to be able to be a part of that and work here and work in one of the 7 wonders of the world, I just love it. And to see people come down here and experience that, and to see people just, it sometimes almost change their life, and to watch them for the first time, because I felt the same way when I came down here. It was just blown away, and felt that one trip down here wouldn't be enough.
Lily's 20 acres and 1 Jenny Mill.
Close to 20,000 people travel down the Colorado River every year. Their trip is well warranted. They had to wait 2 years at the very least, and as many as 10 in the case of private excursions.
We cannot have our things to please us, no matter how we try, till we've all gone to Jesus. We can only wonder why. I had a daughter, she's the apple of my eye. Try to give her something like I never had. Don't wanna ever hear her cry. We cannot have all things to please us, no matter how we try, till we've all gone to Jesus. We can only wonder why.
As the river rushes through the canyon, other valleys appear. A little further north, accessible by climbing a steep ascending trail, is where Canyonlands is located, another national park. That is the panorama Patrick photographs in his endless pursuit of a new perspective and light. He wanders through this territory not unlike the first pioneer photographers who operated view cameras.
The vastness of the landscape, the ability to feel. I realize it's a bit of a cliche to find oneself alone in the middle of scenery such as this, but I admit, I do enjoy this solitude. There are landscapes that allow you to break away. Because they are so far removed, you separate yourself from the rest of the world. Although I live in the present, it's as if time had stopped. Sometimes I kind of picture myself in the past, trying to see through the eyes of these explorers discovering the river.
The patience required to attain the right exposure in operating view cameras was just as vital to the first photographers responsible for surveying the Western American territories through their images. Toward the end of the American Civil War, in 1866, the American government launched 4 large-scale geographical expeditions in order to map out the plateau's relief and multiple outlines on the still blank canvases of topographical charts.
Some of these landscapes are pretty harsh. I've been scared before.
When
the storms are particularly intense, we know that we're totally exposed, so there's a bit of a risk factor involved, an adventure feel. The days when the panorama is obscured by overcast skies or storms are not totally wasted on me. It's quite the opposite, even though there are times you can't take any pictures due to the extreme weather. These periods are almost always followed by a lull where the skies break up in shafts of light that illuminate the face of the cliffs. And that is what gives the background a new depth and intensity, which I strive to portray through my work.
Dans la boîte.
The dream of a journey can also be hiking down a trail through the Grand Canyon, enjoying the viewpoints that come into sight while twisting and turning along the cliff's overhang. As Grand Canyon National Park guides, it is Clark and Mark's job to hike down the South Kaibab Trail. A 6-hour hike down this trail leads you to the river without ever navigating its waters. Native Indians living at the bottom of the Grand Canyon marched on this exact footpath over 800 years ago.
The South Kaibab Trail was built in 1928 specifically to allow people access to get from the rim, the south rim of the Grand Canyon, all the way down to the Colorado River, which if you look out across the Grand Canyon, you realize is almost completely inaccessible. You have vertical cliff walls and seemingly impossible terrain. And if you look at a map of the Grand Canyon over this vast area, there's only a few places where it's possible to get down. Most of those follow these tiny little canyons. Some of them drop vertically, so of course there's no way to get down without abseiling. But this ridgeline trail is one of the few that was built specifically to be able to get you from the very, very top all the way down to the very bottom.
Although the Colorado River may still appear in its wild state to the untrained eye, it has nonetheless lost part of its grandeur by becoming a necessary lifeline for most of Western America.
The Colorado River is the source of life for the West, for the entire Western United States. If it weren't for the Colorado River, states like California, Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, Colorado, none of them would exist because there simply isn't enough water in the West to sustain any kind of a population whatsoever. But the Colorado, the fastest moving, the biggest, the most impressive, the most incredible river in the West, really is the source of life and has been for tens of thousands of years.
In spite of the fact that this river has so far succeeded in preserving its dignity, the Colorado is in the early stages of depletion. This river currently flows through the Earth's arteries, bringing life to 24 million people, 35 American cities, and 7 of the American states. Little by little, the Colorado River fades away as a result of pumping operations supplying water to the many channels, waterworks, diversion canals, and the 10 or so dams, all put into place in a compelling attempt to restrain it. The Colorado is slowly dying for the sake of Las Vegas's monumental fountains and casinos, the azure pools, the countless watered golf courses in the desert, and the Imperial Valley, where it has undeniably been brought to shame. In Mexico, as men longingly stare at nothing more than sand, this river has already ceased to exist.